Hey, everybody, it's Melanie Mack. How you doing? How are you doing today? Um, wow, I just wanted to come on and I was thinking about our view. And, I've had a pretty amazing view for some years now, just being able to wake up and look out at, the beautiful greenery and trees and the water. It's very calming, relaxing. It prompts me to create, feel like my best self. Environment is so important, and sometimes we really dismiss the how imperative it is when we think about our environment and how that contributes to our well-being. And I won't even say success, but just our well-being. And it's scary when it's time to pivot and there are changes that are necessary. And so I was so afraid of losing my view. I had spent time in a marriage that did not serve me well. And I knew that going into it, if we really want to talk about it, I knew that going into it, I had doubts and I did my best to quiet those doubts. We did everything. We did this, it was premarital counseling, and it wasn't the best. It was mediocre at best, but uh, it wasn't the kind of premarital counseling that I believe, like it didn't have the kind of rigor that should be required when entering into this kind of partnership. And because it was my second marriage, he and I had discussed many things prior to getting to a place of wanting to get married. But we knew pretty early on that we wanted to marry. He made it clear to me that he was only that he wasn't dating me for the thrill, that he wasn't dating without purpose. He was dating because that his goal was that he wanted to marry me, not just to marry, but that he wanted to marry me. And I wanted to marry him. And so we would have these long talks and we would talk about, because this was also his second marriage, and we would talk about, we knew we didn't want to have more children. Both of us had children from our previous marriages. So we were coming in as a blended family. And that was one thing. Okay, great. We agree on that. No more children. I'm still raising mine, and so was he. And he didn't have uh, his child wasn't in his care as much. So, we had these conversations about parents and, what happens as our parents begin to age. And we agreed that if the time came where our parents needed to live with us, we were in agreement that we were good with that, that we supported one another in those kinds of decisions because we were preparing to do life with one another. And And that was such a great feeling to meet someone and, and this was, I mean, just for context, this was a Black man and an educated Black man. And I mean, not that that's a qualifying thing, but I am saying that to simply state that sometimes in my lived experience, when I've met someone that's educated, they're not always checking for they're not always checking for Black women. And that's okay, whatever your preference, But this was really, it was refreshing to meet someone who cared about people in the same way that I did. And so that was just a great feeling because it wasn't it didn't feel like he was put off or uh, putting himself on a pedestal and looking down on our people, people of color. So I appreciated being able to have these conversations where we were of like mind. When we started talking about parents and that kind of care, that was important to me. It was also important to him. One of the things that I did not pay as close attention to as I should have was his relationship with his mother. And he had shared some things with me that will remain with me. But he shared some things with me, and it did raise some flags, some cause for concern, but he'd also done the work. He seemed to be very self-aware. He had been in therapy, I'd been in therapy, and so he seemed very aware of his triggers and just any sort of, trauma that came from that mother-son dynamic. And I appreciated that. So even though it was a flag, I I dismissed it because I believed what he said and also what he demonstrated. It wasn't just, what was coming out of his mouth, but I believed what he said to me by him demonstrating that he had done the work and the relationship that he was actively cultivating with his mother. And so I really appreciated that. Also, I was in a place where it was a difficult time. It was a difficult time financially, just as a single mom and not receiving help from my ex-husband. It was tough. Thank God, I'm so grateful that God blessed me with amazing, amazing kids. They not one day have given me any sort of grief or heartache in any way. So they made the job of being a parent uh, easy and fun. And I mean, I don't know how it's supposed to be, but I would hear other parents, not really in my circle, but I would hear conversations with people talking about their kids in ways that, I could not relate. And just hearing people, and this would be in public spaces, but hearing people talk about the troubles they were having with their kids, or they had gotten into a fight with their teenager, or maybe they were afraid of their teenager, or they were disciplining their child in a certain way. And I just thought, I don't have any of that. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that I'm not dealing with anything like that. It was, and it's an absolute joy to be in the company of my kids. They're grown now, but I like even like that is probably when I have the most fun is in the company when I get those moments to um, spend time with them and be in their world. I absolutely love it. There's nothing better than that. So I can't imagine, and I really feel for people who don't have that kind of dynamic where their children don't bring them joy or they don't bring joy to their children. And so anyway, I'm like, what am I talking about here? So anyway, we had these conversations, and there were when we initially started dating, he we weren't dating exclusively, and he was very upfront about that. And I was like, great. He's dating, I'm dating, wonderful. And there came a point, oh, I remember he had given this birthday party for it was his birthday. And he would always give this huge birthday party every year. Well, I didn't know that, but as I was getting to know him, he had a birthday coming up. And he said, listen, I'm having a birthday. I'd really love it if you would come. I would love to have you there. I am dating, as you know, and some of the people that I'm dating may be there. And I just want to be upfront about that. And I thought, this is really progressive. This is okay. I appreciate us having this conversation that he's um, respectful enough to come to me because he didn't have to do that, but to come to me and just tell me, hey, I want you to be there, but I also want you to know this, and giving me a choice in the matter. And so my choice was, that is great. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I will see you after your birthday because you can know someone is dating and you're not exclusive, you're not boyfriend and girlfriend or partner, whatever it is you can know that, but it's another thing to be in the company of it and see it. So I thought, I'll pass. I'm going to pass on this birthday. And I remember talking to one of my best friends, and she said to me, she said, "Yeah," she said, "Don't go." She said, like, this is great that you guys are dating, but yeah, you don't need to go to his birthday party and be among, the other people he's dating." And I said, bet, I agree. And so then her husband, who's always in our conversations, that's really cute, but he's always in our conversation. So he's in the background and he says, Mel, let me talk to Mel. And so she goes, oh my goodness. She said, he has something to say. And so she says, okay. She said, what do you want to say? So I think they had me on speaker or something. And he said, no. He said, I have a different perspective. And I said, okay, let's hear it. He said, go to the party. So I said, okay, go to the party? And he said, yes. He said, this is important information. He said, you want to go to the party, and he said, and you want to pay attention to how he treats you. And he said, if you go to this, he said, when you go, not if, he said, when you go to this party, he said, if he's skulking around and it feels shady and he's treating you differently. And he said, that's information. That's important information. You need that. And if that's the case, then run. He said, you don't need to ever see this person again for any reason. He said, but if you go to the party and he treats you well, he's respectful, there isn't anything odd or strange going on. You feel good, and He said, then yeah, keep moving in this relationship. It's good information. And I thought, wow, two different perspectives. So, my bestie, she says, well, I don't necessarily agree with my husband, but I'm not a man. And he's saying, go to this party. So she said, do you want me to go with you? And I said, no, I can go by myself. And I said, you know what? I'll go. I will go and see what happens. She says, well, if you need to call me and yeah, if you need me to come or, if you need to, make a call, to leave the party, whatever, I will be on standby. And I said, I appreciate that. So anyway, so we get to the party. We get the day of the party comes and I am, I, I pull into the neighborhood and I can hear the music blocks, blocks away. And I was like, wow, he's having like an all out, this like a block party. But so I pull into the neighborhood and I literally parked, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. It was so crowded. I was like, who knows that many people? Who knows that many people in Los Angeles? I mean, it was just people know, you have associates and people, but really, I mean, there must have been like 200 plus people there. So anyway, I parked blocks away and I remember, I'm thinking, oh, it's a sign. I pull into as I park, I hear Beyonce playing "You Put My Love on Top." "Love on Top" is, I think, is a song. So I hear that playing, and I'm like, hey, I'm making my entrance. Like I'm here, and I'm walking toward the house, blocks away, and I can hear that blasting. I was like, oh, maybe it's a sign. I don't know. I get there and I walk in and I mean from outside to inside of the house, walking through the house, out the back door, out in the backyard. I mean, there are people everywhere, everywhere. And so anyway, I make my way through the house. I don't know anyone. And yeah, so now I make my way through and I'm out in the backyard at this point. As soon as I step outside, one of his friends that he had talked to me about came up to me and he said, you must be Melanie. And he introduced himself. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard so much about you. And he said, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so uh, immediately, the person I'm dating comes up to me and he's just like, you made it, I said, yeah, I'm here, and I was like, this is, I was thinking that's a lot, but I was like, wow, this is, great. Happy birthday, so he's like, you want anything? Would you like anything to drink? And I said, sure. I can't remember if I got something to drink. I remember. I think he did get, and so I think he did have get something for me. He had, because I mean, I think there was a DJ or he had music playing, and I know there was a bartender there. That it was nice, and just like a chill, like a backyard boogie kind of thing. And yeah, so anyway, I think he did get me a drink. And at the time, if I'm not a drinker, so the only drink I really knew to order was an apple teeny. So I asked, when he asked if I wanted something, I said, yeah, I'll have an apple teeny. So he had the bartender make one for me and brought it back to me. And in the meantime, I'm still talking to his friend and he comes back. But when he comes back, he's with me. He's with me. And of course, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I know he said there were going to be other, women here that he's actively dating, but I felt fine. I looked around. There was one person that I thought, maybe, when I don't know what his type is, but he there was someone that was there, and I thought, oh, maybe she's one of the people. And it turns out it was his cousin. It was this beautiful woman, and it was his cousin, and she was really sweet. Anyway, so I'm there, and I have a great time, and I'm having a ball. I'm talking to people. I'm meeting people, and just having a wonderful time. I'm not up under him, and but he is making sure that he has eyes on me, and I felt good. I felt seen. I didn't feel like he was disappearing on me, anything like that. And uh, anyway, it was a great night, and I ended up staying. I don't know, did I stay that night? I think I did. Yeah, I think I did stay. We had been dating for a little bit, but yeah, so I stayed. I was getting ready to leave, and he was like, "No, I don't want you to leave. Stay." And I was thinking, well, where are the, aren't there other people here? And I'm sure there were. But yeah, so I ended up staying that night, and it was nice. I remember, was that the night of that? I can't remember. So that night, oh, yeah, it was. Okay, so that night of the party, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the party is still like it's on and popping. Okay, it's still going. And I'm not a big party person or anything. I so yeah, it's late at this point. I'm having a good time. It's starting, the party's still going. And I remember someone coming, like showing up at around 3 o'clock in the morning. Gorgeous woman. And I thought, this is okay. I mean, the party's still going, but like you're showing up at 3 o'clock. My spidey senses were up. So anyway, she comes over, and she sits down. By this time, there's still a significant amount of people there, but the party has moved from indoor outdoor to indoor, mostly indoor. So I'm inside, and she comes over and she sits next to me, and uh, the the guy I'm dating, he's just, he's inside, he's dancing and just having a great time. Like he's having his own party, basically. Like at this point, like he's in his own world. And so she and I are talking, and she was younger, of age, but younger. And she's talking to me kind of like a mentor, mentee, kind of thing. And I'm like, sure, yeah, you can take my information. She's asking questions about different things. We had a great conversation, but I was still like, she showed up around 3. So I thought, maybe that's a booty call, whatever. So I- he had already asked me to stay, but I was trying to see how this was going to play out, and not in competition or anything, but I was just trying to see how it was going to play out. And anyway, she stayed for a little bit, not too long, but she ended up leaving, and then pretty, after a while, everyone was, kind of leaving, and he was saying to me and to other people, he was like, oh, about me, telling other people, he was just like, oh, um Melanie and I have been dating, and she's the sweetest woman in the world, and she's so kind, and I really like her a lot. And it wasn't performative. He was just like, like I really like her. And it was just really sweet. And so it made me feel really special. And again, I don't think he was doing that as some sort of, trick. I believe that it was, uh, it was heartfelt. It was sincere. And I felt the same way about him. I mean, I had little, like hearts in my eyes, and he had hearts in his eyes, and like he was blowing kisses to me throughout the night and little things. So anyway, So, that's happening, and we're courting, we're in a courtship and dating and just having a good time. We'd go out, we'd have fun, and he's very much an extrovert, and I am very comfortable being at home. Now, initially, he didn't have an issue with that. He was kind of cool with, the fact that, I could be home and comfortable in my own skin, comfortable taking up space in my own way. And he was comfortable like being I don't know what it's, well, yes, I do actually, but when you're dating someone who is ooh, what's the word? An extrovert, but it's like they've always got to be, out front. That is, I thought initially, I thought this is a good balance because, we balance one another in terms of energy. I don't have to be on, but he's on most of the time, and I'm on in a different way, and then there are times when he's, not on, and I balance him out. So I thought this is good in terms of compatibility. I thought this is really, really good. But again, that was a sign. The woman showing up, at 3 a.m. and there were other things that, it's like the dynamic between the mother-son dynamic, also the with the dating piece. I love that he was candid with me, and then at one point I remember he came to my house, and he'd been out, like if he were out or something, he'd text me, and or he'd call and say, "Oh, I'm here," and I'm like, "Oh, I wish you were here. Do you want to come up here?" I'm like, "Ah, I'm good." I'm kind of a homebody because I've done a lot of that in my life at, I don't want to say an age appropriate time, but I've done enough of it, where I did that with my girlfriends, and then, we got older, got married, and had kids, and you're not that. I don't want to be like the old person up in the club. Just that's just not appealing, nor is it attractive in any way to me. So, there are lounges and there are like things you can do, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so he would do that, and I remember one night he came to my house. He called me, and he came over, and he comes back, and we're talking, and we're just like sitting in the bed, and we're talking, and he just looks at me, and he says, "There's I was thinking about this tonight, and there's just no other place that I'd rather be." He said, I'm going places, and he was like, "But I want to be right here with you." It was really sweet, and again, sincere. So I don't want to, come off as if like, oh, this was just insincere. He was playing games. No, he wasn't. And I thought, well, he's taking time to think this through. And so anyway, we continued to date. I, yeah, we continued to date. Another time, I'm home, talking about the flags here. I'm home, and I don't, it was after midnight. It may have been 1 a.m. and my phone rings, and I look, and he's calling, and I was like, that's weird, so I answer the phone, and he's not saying anything. And but I can hear him, and so you know where I'm going, ladies. It's a butt dial. And he'd called me, and I remember I can hear him, and he's having a conversation with a woman, and the conversation, the tone, the laughter, the familiarity was like he was talking to me. And I thought, and so I listened for a minute, and it's like it just oh, it just took my breath away. It absolutely took my breath away. And I just thought, I was like, oh my gosh, he did not mean to call me. And I could hear his phone like in his pocket or something because there was like this, you know, in between, like being able to hear clearly, and then of course the phone hangs up at some point. But this wasn't a long period of time. But I thought, well, he's talking to this person. You know how you feel like you have a special connection with someone, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but in that moment, I thought, this we don't what we have. This isn't. He's like this with anybody. That's what I thought in that moment. Now, I should have taken that as information, but I dismissed it. And so I had a conversation with him about that. And I said to him, I said, listen, you should probably put a lock on your phone. Again, we were not in an exclusive relationship at this point. I said, you should probably put a lock on your phone. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you called me by accident last night, and I could hear that you were with someone else. And he said, oh. And he said, you did? I said, yes. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I, I did not intentionally do that. I said, I know it was unintentional. I mean, you wouldn't call me and, you know, knowingly, and I can hear that you're with someone else. I said, but you were very familiar with this person. I said, it was almost as if you were talking to me. And I thought we had like this special kind of the way we communicated, the things we would share. But he was the same person with another person. So it wasn't. It wasn't special. So, anyways, we had that conversation, and he apologized, and he said that that wouldn't happen again. And I said, and in thinking about that, I said, I am starting to develop uh, strong feelings for you. And I said, although I am dating, I I know that I want to be with you. And I was like, I was dating some other people, but nothing serious. And he said, and I said, and since we're not exclusive, that's, yeah, I had said to him, yeah, so backing up a little bit, what I'd said to him was, I said, I was dating. I said, but for the most part, I've been dating you exclusively, and you're still, you know, dating, which that was understood. I had just made a choice I was really enjoying spending time with him. So I said, but you know what? I'm going to go back to dating. And he was like, oh, no, 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 no. I don't want you to do that. And I said, well, what do you mean you don't want me to do that? And he said, no, I want to be with you. I said, but you're still dating. And I said, and I'm not. So I'm going to go back to dating. And he said, no, 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 no. I don't want that. So he then I said, well, you want to still. He liked the fact that I had stopped dating and was only dating him. So he wanted to kind of keep me in a space like having your cake and eat it too. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Excuse me. So he ended up having a conversation with me, and he, said he had thought about it, and he said, I love you. For the guys who may be watching this, they're like, oh, he dropped the love bomb or something. I don't know. It seems sincere, guys. So he said, I love you. and I only want to be with you. And I want it to just be us. So it became official that now we're exclusive. And that was a good feeling. And it seemed like, well, not it seemed like, but just things started to move in a different way. Just you could tell that we were really connected to one another and really aligned in our work and our values, uh, character, many things just worked on several levels. Just we were going to church together, we prayed together, and just it was good. Now, I remember at one point, I remember we were praying, and we had committed to like 1 year of prayer, every day, daily prayer. We had committed to that, and so we were praying, and he would pray over me, which I really appreciated that, and I'd pray over him, and then there was like a prayer, like we were doing these daily prayers with our church. So anyway, there was this one time during our morning prayer time, and he said something about, like when he said something like, oh Lord, just something about like, we're human, and and we make mistakes, and Lord, forgive us when we make a mistake and help us to get back on track. And we're praying, and I'm kind of like, what'd you say? What'd you just say in the prayer? Huh? So anyway, so I'm listening. We're praying, and I'm kind of like one eye open, like, huh? So I caught that, and I thought, oh, something must have happened, because he's kind of telling on himself that something has happened, and he's praying for forgiveness. So again, flags. I So I saw these things, fast forward to wherein he proposes, and uh, he, he proposes in a major way. And it was, I knew that he, not he, but I knew that we wanted to get married. And I just remember having this early morning meeting, and the night before, we were living together at this point, and he had said to me, like, he was, asking like, oh, what are you gonna wear to the meeting? And all of these things, like things that he had never done before. And I'm like, why is he so concerned about what I'm wearing to a meeting? It's like, it's a meeting, it's an important meeting, but I got it. So he's like, make sure that you're on time. And thinking again, like, what is the deal with, like, why is he so concerned with this one? I have meetings all day, every day of the week, but he's really concerned about this one particular meeting. And anyway, so I go to this restaurant, and I have my laptop, and I'm preparing to meet with someone. All of a sudden, like, all of this fanfare comes in, and someone calls out my name, and it's like, oh, it's Melanie here. And I'm looking like, what? And I kind of raised my hand, and I'm like, yes, I'm Melanie right here. And so she's like, oh, are you aware of what today is? And uh, anyway, long story short, it's like uh, a network came out, like morning news, and it was a whole stunt to because he was proposing live on morning TV. And I was like, I was genuinely surprised. I had no idea. And so he proposed, and then it was just like, it's kind of a blur, but I just remember I didn't know what was going on. And by the way, I still thought that this meeting was happening. There was never a meeting. He had set all of this up so that because he was proposing to me, and so he needed me to be at a particular restaurant, which was our restaurant. He needed me to be at this restaurant at a certain time, and he was, I'm like, thank God I have my nails done, and but anyway, so he proposed, and it was beautiful. He had already talked to my family and asked for permission, and so everyone was in on it except me. And when that happened, it was really sweet. And like the camera crew, like, during the commercial breaks, they were like, here, like you can, like, your tears, and that, so it was like happy tears, joy. It was beautiful. Later that evening, he was at a bar. He always did the happy hours, which I hated, because he was always like, "Oh, I'm done with work, but I have a happy hour." It's like 5 nights a week he had a happy hour. Like, how many? You have a happy hour every night of the week? Okay, that was annoying. That was always annoying. It was never like, "Oh, that's cool." It was just kind of like, happy hour? Okay. So he always had a happy hour. So anyway, this particular day was our engagement, and where he had proposed, and he's at a bar, and I can't remember how we connected later, but I think he asked me to come to the bar. He was having, like, eating some wings or something, and so I was like, yeah, like, I'm all excited. And so I get there, and we're talking, and he's watching football or whatever, and the screens at a bar. So he's watching football, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I'm thinking to myself, we got engaged. This is nice. And also, we'd had long talks, because, again, remember, we'd been married before, to other people, but so we were very deliberate and intentional and thoughtful about this process of even wanting to enter into another marriage. So anyway, we're at the bar, and he says to me, I did all of that for you. And he was like, because, I didn't need all that. Well, there goes my, memory. Yeah, I could, like, way to go, way to ruin a memory. And I didn't need I didn't ask him to propose to me on television. That was never a conversation. And so then for him to sit there and say, I didn't need all that. I did that for you. Hmm, okay. It ruined the day for me. I can't tell you, like, how many or so many other situations like that just during our marriage, but yeah, it was no longer special. And I guess he felt like he had to do something like that. And anyone that knows me, that is just not the case. So, um, to this day, I believe that that's something that he did for him, to make himself look a certain way. I don't know, maybe it was like to attract more women. I don't know. I ended up being with the person that I married was a serial cheater. Not, hey, I made a mistake. And even like then, is it really a mistake? Because we have choices. We're adults. We have choices. So yeah, that was, there were hints and whispers of things. I'm saying all of this because there were hints and whispers leading, like during our courtship, after we got engaged, once we were husband and wife. And, I saw some footage not too long ago and just some random thing that I was looking through, and it was some pictures, like group shots of us, because we created a company together, and one of the companies that we had together, we I was looking back at some footage, and then I looked, and I was just like, well, I'll just be. So I've always known, which is why I'm divorced. It's in large part why I'm divorced, is that once I was clear that the cheating was never going to stop, once I was clear that, he started treating me very disrespectfully, uh, doing things to embarrass me publicly, doing a lot of things behind closed doors that were just so hurtful. And I just, it was starting to kill my confidence. It was damaging my spirit, and I was becoming depressed and just not myself, and I have a light. I know that I do. And not just because I think I do, it's something that I've been told my entire life, and not like, oh, little magic, but just a thing that I appreciate that people say about me. And when I was with him, that was it was dying, and that was a part of me that was dying. My hair was falling out. My hair had gotten really thin, and I had this huge bald patch in the top of my head. And thank God it started growing back, but it was just the stress of being in that marriage, and the way he would treat me. I'd wait for him to come home. One night he didn't, just didn't bother coming home, didn't call. A lot of things that were just hurtful. And yeah, once I got clear on those things and just realized this is not going to change, and also this is not about me. This is his behavior, and I had to get clear on that this is about you and your insecurities, that he was trying to project that onto me, that, oh, I'm just being secure, or, oh, I don't like this homegirl of his, or I don't like, this homeboy, and those kinds of things. And I remember my father saying, he said, he doesn't have a lot. He said, I've observed that he doesn't have a lot of married friends, and that's not good for a married man. He said, because, those people are always going to try to make it look like their life is, like just so much better than, being a married man. And being married, there are responsibilities and compromise and things that come along with that. You're not just in the world, you know, for self. You have someone that you are accountable to, as I, was accountable to him. And Yeah, so anyway, once I became clear on the serial cheating, the seeing that I was not myself and that I was never going to be my best self with him, the realization that, it's hard when you've made all of these plans and you want to do these things with this person and you're on this journey together. And so it's like the death of those things. So the realization of those things and coming to grips with that, I decided to leave. And and it was some of the things that I experienced, people would never they would never believe. But and I don't even know how I got on this conversation today. Maybe it was something that I just needed to share. I hope that if this lands and finds you, and you are in a situation where you are not being honored, recognize it. I watched something, Martha Stewart has this really incredible documentary. If you get a chance to see it, I think it's on Netflix, or at least it was. But if you get a chance to see it, watch it. But she said something about, she mentioned a husband, and as a young woman she realized that he was cheating, and she was saying, like, ladies, if you see that, recognize it and get out, leave. Like, recognize that, he's the jerk, and leave. And sometimes it takes time to, uproot your life and those kinds of things. But I was, I was embarrassed because I thought, this is my second marriage, and this is not working. And I can't keep putting on a brave face. And, because people would say to us, oh, couples goal, relationship goals, marriage goals. And I remember somebody contacting me, and, they wanted to interview us for a book. And I was thinking, hell no, no. You have no idea what's going on in this, and I'm not going to pretend like everything is, uh, perfect. It was far from perfect. So anyway, coming to grips with all of those things and realizing that no one is going to honor me uh, more than me, and not in that situation, and that I deserve more. And I also wanted him, I talked to him about this. I said, I think that, maybe you want to be in an open marriage. It's funny, my phone said hallelujah. Um, so I said, maybe you want to be in an open marriage. And he said, oh no, I don't want to be in an open marriage. I want to be married. I want to be with you. And his actions weren't, they weren't that. And I think if he really sat down and thought about it, either, it's best for him not to be married, or maybe a situation like that where it's just he's in an open, maybe he's not married and he's just dating, for the rest of his life. I don't know. Whatever. That's, it's his decision, his call to make. But I thought about those things and had those conversations with him, and he said, no, that's not what he wanted. But it is. He wanted to keep me in a place and basically live, whatever, life he was having outside of me. And I'm telling you, once I left, the like I could it felt like oxygen. It felt like I could breathe again. Tony Braxton, shout out. But it literally felt like I could breathe again. It felt like uh, I got myself back. Things started opening up for me. People started coming around me. Just uh, like a natural magnet. And I just had to thank God for freeing me, giving me the courage to walk away, giving me the courage to uh, not be afraid of letting people see that my marriage isn't and wasn't perfect, and not having shame around that. Because sometimes we stay in situations because it's just like, oh, like, what are people gonna think? And oh, they think we're the power couple, and oh, we have all these things going on, and we're gonna let the community down, and but at what cost? At what cost? And I was no longer willing to, I was no longer willing to sacrifice my well-being, my overall well-being, and my dreams, my goals, how I saw myself, and constantly, like, being with someone who's constantly telling you who and what you are not. Oh man, if you are in a situation like that, get out. Get out now. It is not going to get better. Whatever you're holding on to, because we had some good moments. Don't get me wrong, we had some really beautiful moments, things that I'll never forget. But mostly we had things that I never want to relive again. I would never want anyone to relive again. And get out, get out. You deserve better. Don't make excuses for that person. If you find yourself uh, making excuses for the person in your life, the partner in your life, that's a sign, that's also a signal that maybe something isn't right here. So yeah, get out, move on, do what you have to do to have calm and to have rest, to have peace, the peace of God. He's got you. God has God has got you. Like, he has seen me through so many things, and I'm just so blessed to be here. And again, I didn't know, I wasn't sure what I was going to share in this video, and that just here's what I've shared. And I really hope that this video and this message finds whoever needs to hear this in this season. This is your time, and this is your season. This is your signal to leave. You can love someone, but love yourself more. Choose yourself. Leave. It will be okay. It may be rocky to start, it may get rocky later, but choose yourself and know that God's got you. Ask Him to help you and to make a way, to make a way out. And be blessed. And I will see you next time. And if this video resonated with you, please leave a comment and share this video with someone who uh, may be going through something. And just know that you're not alone. My story is not unique. It's not unique to me. And I haven't even shared all of my story, but it's not unique. Just know that you can get through it. All right. We can get through this. I got through it. I, many nights of crying and feeling hurt, and you will heal. You will heal. Pray, and I'll see you next time.